Now, first up, we have Joshua Rosario King, who is the chair of the DEI committee at Ingenio. Now, Joshua has a passion for giving back to the community, and he's worked with tons of LGBTQIA and POC nonprofits, customer services, learning and development training, all kinds of great stuff. He currently works at a tech company called Ingenio, and there he's had the opportunity to help revamp their onboarding, conduct lunch and learns, arrange and celebrate cultural celebrations. He's also led very informative town halls and works very closely with the C-suite inside Ingenio. Now, outside of Ingenio, he is working on becoming a life coach and writing an inspirational book to help uplift, encourage, and inspire others. Rob Rebar is going to join him in conversation. He is our own fabulous senior community and events manager. Now, Rob has a background in production and promotion for experiential marketing, events, theater, concerts, global luxury brands, Broadway productions, and television networks. For PowerToFly, he brings all those skills and more to bear in guiding us through, and into greater and greater events for all of you. So Rob, Joshua, I will turn the stage over to you. Take it away.
Thank you, Meg, so much. Welcome, Joshua. I know it's early on your side of the country right now, so thank you so much for joining us at the summit.
Absolutely. That's my pleasure. I'm used to being up at 6 a.m. anyways to start work, so this is nothing.
Perfect. Well, we're really looking forward to learning more about what makes a good leader and a good ally. Allyship, of course, is so key to really promoting LGBTQIA+ issues. But let's kind of focus on a leader first. Can you tell us, in your mind, what makes a good leader?
Yeah, absolutely. So from my experience and just, everything that I've been through, I found a good leader is supportive, understanding, patient, they're honest. There's someone who is willing to just walk alongside you for the person you are and really just be interested in your growth overall. They want to encourage you. They want to connect you, help you network, really just build on your experience and help you grow in whichever your career path is.
Yes, totally agree. And I think we were talking in our green room a little bit also about kind of mentorship, which I think is also so key to being a leader. Here at PowerToFly, when we have a new person join the team, we try to put them with a buddy. We have our own mentorship program here. What role do you think that mentor-mentee relationship can be in building a leader, especially as an LGBTQIA+ person?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the best thing for a mentor to look forward to is basically in that understanding and patient aspect, to understand the background of the person they're mentoring, to really try to lean on educating them and helping them gear them towards the path they're trying to reach. Qualities that are definitely important is to have empathy, because we don't know the background of the individual. We don't know where they're coming from, what their resources are. So definitely have a lot of empathy, but also just to have a lot of encouragement and patience with them. It's definitely important. I have a lot of mentees under me, and it just, and they're inclusive, of course. They're not all part of the community. Some of them are straight, but a lot of them are also POC as well. So It's just really given that aspect of basically paving the way for them.
Yeah, and I think that's what's great there is, our president of PowerToFly has said, that she wants to mentor, your daughters, but she also wants to mentor your sons, because
Right.
we do need to bring like everyone in, learn from each other, that kind of intersectionality. And I think it's so great because certainly when I was coming up, sometimes I was the only queer person in the office, so I didn't know who to go to, and really any other underrepresented person, whether it is your race or ethnicity or your orientation or your gender, it is great to have that person, another person at the office to go to for some kind of guidance.
I definitely agree. I can always remember like starting a new job and just being excited to see another person similar to me, whether it's complexion, whether it's sexual orientation, whatever it is. It's just always that excitement to say, oh wait, I'm not the only one. So I definitely agree with that. It does give you a little comfortability there.
Totally. And I'm interested too, why is it important for LGBTQIA+ community to see leaders that reflect them at all levels of the organization? Because I think that's still a hurdle that we are overcoming where, we can get the new talent in kind of, the entry level, but when we look to the C-suite, we still don't often see ourselves there. And of course that can be said of, BIPOC people as well, and and a whole bunch of other things. And we've heard some other speakers kind of talk about this as well. But why do you think it's important to see yourself reflected in all levels of leadership at an organization?
Absolutely. This is something I'm currently actually dealing with now. And, I think it's important because inclusion helps shows the community there's room to grow and spread their wings. If I don't see someone that looks like me, in C-suite, where do I get the courage or the inspiration to think I can get there? And it's not like they're purposely leaving us out, but it's just at the end of the day, it's just that when I want to move up, I look up to them to say, what's up there? What's going on? Lucky enough, for me, we have, we're definitely opening up at my company when it comes to that diversity suite. They're very open and supportive and definitely encouraging for us to move up. So it's definitely a privilege to be a part of this particular company for my first, tech company. Not everyone has that experience. I'm sure there's individuals that walk into the company that want to make it up to senior director, president, CEO, but because they don't see someone that looks like them, act like them, or from the same community, they don't think it's possible and may even get discouraged. So the best thing I can definitely say or encourage companies to do is definitely, work on the hiring aspect of revamping that onboarding process to make sure that, when you are looking for individuals for those C-suite or senior positions, to make sure make sure it's as inclusive as possible.
Yeah. And I think part of that is that hiring process. And then there's a big part of it that's that retention. And I think that's, the big missing piece I often hear is people are doing a lot of great advancements in terms of the hiring, but sometimes keeping that talent, especially any kind of underrepresented talent. And I think you see it reflected in benefits, when you don't have maybe an LGBTQIA plus person who has a say in the benefits. Are you seeing, in vitro for two men, or, or gender affirmation surgery, or like, are those things included? So it kind of all there starts at the top with those decision makers. And that can have a big effect in whether people stay at your company.
It's very true. And honestly, when we launched the DEI committee, it was actually brought upon by the CEO of our company, who suggested that we did revamp it. And one of the first things the committee did work on, that they allowed us to work on, which was very fortunate for us. Again, most tech companies or big companies, they don't allow the committees to be involved as much as they should. But they actually allowed us to review their onboarding process, help revamp it, help, provide suggestions, do some research, and really work on that hiring process to expand it more, to not only get more LGBTQI plus, but also to get more BIPOC individuals and just, diversity and inclusion across the board, because we wanted a difference. We wanted to be successful. We wanted to make sure everyone felt welcome.
Mm-hmm. Were you using surveys and other forms of feedback to get that? Because I feel like that's often something that companies can do more of, is like, let's just survey our employees, whether it's anonymously or, whether, you're attaching a name to it.
They started that, but we kind of got a survey fatigued at one point when we started this option. So we actually skipped that factor and just went right into the onboarding, because they've already done all the survey the diversity survey, how you identify survey. Like they were on top of it. So by the time we came along, we were already just like, well, here's the information. What can we do? How can we help? And the committee just got to work. And we wanted to do more than just celebrate, culture celebrations and newsletters. We really wanted to make a difference in the company. And, they definitely created a platform for us to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, here at PowerToFly, we have done an identity survey the last 2 years, and actually looked at, and shared it on org calls, seeing, okay, how have we grown more diverse over the last 6 or 12 months? And we're actually putting that data up on our About Me page on our site, so you can see how many people are caregivers, or how many people are part of the queer community, and how many people are you can see that all there. And I think like that kind of transparency is so important.
It's very important, and I'm so grateful to hear that your company does that, because a lot of more companies should definitely share that information. And honestly, it probably would help with the retention rate with that information shared.
Totally. Yes, totally. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about allyship, because that's a word that, is thrown around a lot. Everyone uses the word, but what is your definition of allyship?
My definition is probably a little bit different than most, but it's going to be a person or a group that supports you, shows up, and allows you to be yourself. But then it goes into a bigger definition for me because of my personal experience. So you want that support and you want that encouragement, but you also want to be mindful. Like, you want to do, I don't want to say an ally checklist, but you want to sit there and, just because someone's being nice to you, or someone is, utilizing your sexuality or the color of your skin, whatever that may be, as I used to say, an accessory, then you have to really check that and see if they're really an ally or a friend for yourself. Like, for example, I grew up with a lot of my female friends having a homophobic boyfriend. Now I had to really, rethink that and say to myself, to understand, like, well, is this really a friend? Because she's with this individual that is mistreating me, doesn't understand me, and is putting both of us in danger. And putting myself in those type of situations helped me really look into that factor of, hey, I need to really, really revitalize my relationships on how I, interact with individuals. I do want the support, but I want to make sure you're supporting me for the right reason. And I also want to make sure I'm not a cause. We're not a cause here. We're just here to live our lives, and we just would like the support along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's so important. And I think, the people we surround ourselves with, and that, it can be that trickle down effect to kind of, letting everyone know, what our community is all about. And I'm curious, what does being an ally look in practice, though? Because I think, it's great that, to do, there's simple things that everyone can do, but I think taking that next step, really being an active ally, an active participant, can be difficult sometimes. So what does being an ally look like for you in practice?
In practice, it's speaking up, having a voice. Also, most people think like signing petitions and going to rallies are small potatoes, but it's not. It's really big for us sometimes, because that's how we get our rights. That's how we've been fighting for a lot of our equality the past few years, and maybe even the past decades or so. So, I mean, really, really stepping up and showing there in a physical sense, being able to not only sit there and walk alongside, let's say, me and another person is somewhere. I don't want you to do that, but just because you're with me, I want you to show up on your own. I want you to be able to, educate individuals on your own. I want you to be able to, sit there and maybe stop someone in the act, or something in the act, if you see something inappropriate, someone being mistreated, somebody being bullied or something like that. I want you to step up and step in. Of course, don't put yourself in harm's way, but I still would, that's what I would say for me, it would look like in practice. I would need to see you going above and beyond, because I live by actions speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I think the other angle of action, and this is an action, I think, is active listening as well. Yeah. Do you think like that allies should kind of, yes, they should show up at the rallies and take that action, but should they also be listening more, not just passively listening, but really taking it in?
I definitely agree. They definitely should be active listening. They definitely should be. I also say, best thing to understand a person is try to learn more about them. Try to learn about their community. Try to learn about their history. Try to learn, as you're sitting there, make sure you're not listening to respond, but you're literally just listening to, to give them a safe space. I did a safe space panel. It was one of the yesterday, and it was actually one of the conversations we had is, are we as an individual safe space enough for other people? And I think an ally should be a safe space themselves, not the physical aspect, not the walls, not the environment, but them themselves. If I go to one of my people I consider an ally, I want to be able to understand and trust that what I say, they're hearing me, and they're not just like, okay, now what's next? Or they're moving on to the next topic, or they're ready to go to the next thing. It's like, okay, no, let's literally have this conversation.
Yeah, totally. And one thing like we do, and it's so easy in the virtual world to do is we will at PowerToFly do random kind of almost like speed dating with other members of our team, where you can be paired with someone, learn about them, not just because I think it is so important to not just learn about someone as an LGBTQ person, but really learn about who are they, and where are they in the world, because we're a global company. So being a queer person in Africa is very different than here me in New York City right now. So taking all that kind of in is, I think, is great.
And I like that you said your company does like almost a speed dating type deal with the employees. We do something very similar, especially since we went virtual because of the pandemic and everything. We understand socializing is important across the board. So what we did is we did virtual coffee chats where you automatically are paired up through an app we use, and you get 15 minutes with the individuals, and there's posed questions. They ask personal questions like what's your favorite food and things of that nature, because we are also a global company. So we have individuals in India, we have individuals in all over the place now. So it was definitely helpful to get through that, to learn about other individuals, other cultures, other people, and it was fun. It was a great experience.
Mm-hmm. Some great questions from the audience here. Jude is asking, Joshua, I know many companies have federal reporting requirement that specify gender, but may not yet be inclusive of non-binary entities. Does your company have a separate survey for individuals that identify outside of the binary? Does it use that data to better understand its employees?
Great question, and very timely. Thank you for asking. Actually, we have an amazing senior DEI director that just launched a survey, identity survey. And honestly, the way that it was created was, I believe it was through SurveyMonkey, and she actually catered it to the employees, understanding the demographics that we have in our company. So actually, the survey that actually included, even if your gender or your specific identity wasn't listed, it had an option for you to add it. And I actually took it before it was out to the company, and I was actually very excited to be able to put my non-binary status there and be able to say, this is me. I was able to go into my HR payroll and change my identity there as well for non-binary as well. So my company has kind of really stepped up and really helped with that factor. And I think if there are companies out there that do have DEI directors or consultants or things of that nature, definitely I would say have them create a similar survey, but cater it to that particular company's needs or demographics.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. We've done something similar here when we just surveyed everyone. And I would also say to Jude or anyone else that's listening is, before you send the survey out to everyone, run it by a non-binary person on the team. Or if you don't have a non-binary person on the team, reach out to an outside consultant, and not just non-binary, but, anything for a survey. If you're sending out one about, LGBTQIA plus identity, try to find as many people who represent those letters as possible to kind of, weigh in on some of those things.
Yeah, we have quite a few of those letters. So
yes, exactly.
And the fact that it's interesting because someone like me who represents several communities, it's definitely it's an opportunity, and I'm humbled to be able to have a voice for all them opportunities. I don't speak on behalf of them, but I like to have the voice to be able to speak because I do represent so many different communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Drew has a question. This is really interesting. Drew asks, the whole quote, I accept queer folks, but has been a theme of 2022 for my social media feed. How can leaders nip this in the bud at their companies?
Ooh. This one's probably a little bit more complicated. The best thing that I found helpful is education, lunch and learns, town halls, whether it's and if you don't have a DEI committee or an affinity group, whichever your company defines the requirement, I definitely encourage you start one. That's honestly where it started for me when things started changing at my company, was when we actually started the DEI committee. And I think, I think once that started and they noticed a group of people that stood together to want to make that particular change was really when the change really started taking place. So I definitely, yeah, education is key on that note.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we do org calls once a week, and talking about anything for, we just had one on Juneteenth. Like, let's talk about what that is especially for the folks that aren't living in the United States where this might not be something. But, chat and learns and lunch and learns, like you said, I think are really a great option. So I do think education, just putting out as much information and putting it in different ways. Maybe sometimes it's an event, interactive event. Maybe sometimes it's a blog post. You don't have to create it yourself too.
No.
There's a lot of great things out there on YouTube or on other, verifiable websites that you can share.
Yeah, I like, Rob, that you said events. One of the best things that one of my favorite things to do is definitely plan the fun events, because I feel like when you sneak the education in there and you sneak it under the rug, they don't really realize it. Best example I have, I think it was last year, we did a virtual drag show. And it was just phenomenal to the point where like everybody in the company is still talking about it today. But even though it was a drag show, it was fun, it was eventful. There was still education. There was still history of our community, of Stonewall. They were still going in between calling numbers. They were still educating the entire company, and we had a very big show out for that. So I was very, I think it's very important to have fun educational events on top of regular educational events.
We put trivia in there, all those kind of fun things. And back to the gender question that we were talking about, Jude says, that was great to hear. Hopefully options outside the binary will be included in the census going forward and on federal reporting requirements. And totally agree. We definitely are. I think a lot of companies are actually leading the way, and hopefully, the federal government and state governments kind of look to some of the advances that private companies have done in that regard.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised when they launched on the driver's license out here. So I definitely made sure to go to the DMV and update my license to get my X on my ID, because it's just, it was satisfying to see like, hey, I'm being recognized for me. I'm not being recognized for anything else except me. And I just appreciate that factor.
Yes, totally. And thank you all for your questions, because here's another great one from Emily. And Emily is asking, as a member of the LGBTQ community, how can I build a better atmosphere within the company I work for to be more inclusive of others within the LGBTQ community?
Great question, Emily. The best thing to help, it goes back to education. But besides that, I don't know what type of company you actually work for. Again, it goes back to that affinity groups. It goes back to the DEI committees. It goes back to create a safe space for the community within your company. Of course, approved by managers if possible, because the important thing is yes, you can get a bunch of employees together, but one thing I've learned is if you don't have senior management, if you don't have anybody above the employees that are willing to support and stand behind you and back you, the group will just be that. The best thing would be to do is get somebody on board that's in C-suite, get somebody on board that you're familiar with or comfortable with to talk about these issues with, and make sure that they understand and they're actively listening to what your request is, and then definitely go from there to help build or create whatever it is that the employees at your company are asking for or wanting. I mean, maybe a survey will help as well, but I would definitely go stick to education. But I think the first best thing would be is a conversation with somebody in management.
Yeah, I think that is a great point, Joshua. I think you really need that senior buy-in, I think, on these kind of things. And it doesn't even need to be someone who's part of the community, it can be a great ally as well. But I think like if you don't have that senior buy-in, it's going to be very hard to maybe get, a budget down the line, or even beyond, even something maybe simpler than that, just kind of getting that programming out there.
Yeah.
And I think too, it's important that, of course, we're having this summit during Pride Month, but we also have a chat and learn series called Pride All Year Long, where we do a chat with an LGBTQIA leader once a month. And, I think that's to you, what you're saying, Joshua, about the education, like it shouldn't just be in June, like it should be all year long.
Round.
And, the same thing with any kind of affinity group or underrepresented community. It can't just be, Black History Month in February. It needs to be, 12 months
all
of the year.
Right. I definitely agree with that.
Mm-hmm. And kind of the last question I had for you before we start to wrap up is, companies, June, everyone puts everything in rainbows, which is great. We love it. We love seeing rainbows. We love, one of our other speakers said, the first thing you can do is just put a pride flag outside of your house or company. Great. We love that. But, how else can companies be good allies? What's the next step that they can take after, acknowledging it?
Absolutely. One of the conversations I've been having, and it's funny this came up because when I saw that question, I actually laughed to myself because I actually was requesting for my company to change their logo for this month. And then after, much further research and realizing what was already going on, I didn't feel it was really necessary. And I think, the important thing here for companies is it's great that you change your logo to show that you're an ally. It's great. The real thing you really need to research for companies, in my opinion, is support your employees all year round. Don't just highlight their work, not their sexuality. Mm-hmm. I think, by instead of maybe changing a rainbow, why don't you, highlight an employee that's part of the community, give them credits, give them kudos, maybe also look where you're donating as well. Are you donating to the places like the Trevor Project, the AIDS Foundation, things of that nature that supports and goes back to the community? I mean, if you're just putting your logo to a rainbow and you're not doing any of these other things, you might as well just keep your logo as is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, a lot of, there are pride centers in, lots of major cities, small cities, so if your company is, you might have a neighborhood pride center that's in your city or town or the neighboring town. How can you work with that? How can your company donate to them? Can you do an event? Can you get a speaker from that organization to come in, and work with someone there?
Yeah, I think that's very important. One of the important things that really opened my eyes was I did the AIDS walk about 2 years ago, and my company was fully supportive, and I also matched my donation to show their support to the cause because they understood. I made it clear that it's going to a broad community.
That's amazing. Yeah. And Emily's saying that, her CEO loves her. So loves them. So hopefully we can get that. So, and I know, yeah, so that's great. And, just to wrap up here, Drew, I had a question. Part one was Joshua, who is your hairstylist? Because Drew is giving you big props. And two, as an ERG leader themselves, especially during June, it gets exhausting having to constantly educate folks. How do you combat some of those feelings when you're under that pressure to have, 10 lunch and learns in a week?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you. I do my own hair. I actually grew it back out just recently, so thank you. As for exhaustion, trust me, I've been there. I definitely understand that aspect. Given the fact that you have an ERG group, the best suggestion or recommendation I can give is make sure you're putting the responsibilities on everybody in the group, giving everybody an opportunity to shine. Just because it's Pride Month doesn't mean you need to have someone part of the community do the lunch and learn. Just same thing, just like with Black History Month, you don't have to have someone that's part of the community to provide the education. The factor is, as long as the education is getting out there, make sure you're taking your time to step away to breathe a moment, to change up responsibilities, maybe do something in the background while someone else is presenting or things of that nature, or delegate the responsibilities to have them create the presentation, create the material, and you just review it. One of the biggest things, because we were a lot smaller, is a lot of things fell on myself at the time, and the co-chair that I was with, currently, but we started delegating. We started saying, hey, it's not just going to be us in the spotlight. Yeah, we may run the group, but we want to share the responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would add that to that, Drew, there are some companies that have the budget to even, if you're running an ERG, to let you take a leave of absence from your day job to like focus on that. They might have even the budget for that. So, that might be something that maybe you can't do now, but maybe that say, hey, X amount of years from now, if you really want us to concentrate on this, like I need to like not do, my day-to-day stuff, concentrate on this. Then I go back to that day-to-day stuff. And it's, me 1 year, it's my colleague the next year, there are companies that are doing that.
And it's also, just to add a little bit more onto that, it's also if you have an approved budget, you can also bring somebody in. It doesn't always have to be
Totally.
the ERG
Yes.
group. You can also, bring somebody in and have them speak and do the work for you. Just make sure that they understand the concept that they're coming, what they're walking into as an inclusive company, or however your company represents, so that they have an understanding of what they're teaching.
Totally. Well, thank you, Joshua. We are out of time, but this was an amazing conversation. So many great insights that you had. Before we leave, can you just let everyone know, if they want to find you, where can they find you, and also anything else about Ingenio that we should know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on LinkedIn, posting my link now. Ingenio is actually now one of the biggest worldwide wellness company online. They provide a lot of their materials, live advice, such as Keen, Psychic Center. So it is a lot of well-being advice. It's a great inclusive company that's just working to build on being a better company and better to support their employees. And they go by a people first company, which I can definitely speak for.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, thank you again so much for your time today. This was so great. Meg, I think we've got a video next that is either starting right now or just or is about to start. So thank you so much, Joshua, for your time.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you.